Depending on how you look at it, obedience can either be one of the easiest things to do, the absolute hardest, and that highly depends on your perspective and how you go about doing the task at hand that you're being told to do. When you read the Bible, it can be so easy to sit there and say, just do as God says. And it is easy. But once you start putting your theory into action, that is the point where it's not as easy as it sounds, because you have to start denying your flesh and not think about anything else but God. For example, go and spread the gospel in public to someone, like to a stranger you've never met. It's easy to read the Bible and think these disciples just went out into these towns and spoke about Jesus. There's no harm in that. But when it's you that's going out there trying to reach out to people and talking to them about Jesus, it can be very difficult mentally to overcome, because you're being vulnerable within yourself about something you believe so passionately about and you're willing to share that. And depending on how they take it, you definitely guard yourself more. But sometimes, and I feel like I keep touching on this because it comes in so many different shapes and forms. When we are instructed by God, it's really a command. He's not asking, hey, if you've got 5 minutes out of your time, can you just quickly do this for me? No, he's telling us, go do this. Sometimes we really get all worked up on ourselves about, oh, but what about me? And oh, I can't, I've got this problem, I've got a busy schedule, or whatever it is. That when you look at it from God's point of view, God has asked you to share him with someone. Do you know how selfish it is if you say no, or you let yourself get in the way of that? Because someone could really be out there struggling in a really dark time of their lives. And I've heard so many stories where people have this funny urge or sign or feeling that God's telling them to go talk to someone about God, or talk to someone about Jesus specifically, like seek out this person. When you're looking at it from your point of view, you think, oh, this guy's gonna think I'm weird, this girl's gonna think I'm crazy, like, oh, I'm a complete stranger just going up to them and just saying, hey, do you know Jesus? Like, that can sound so scary. But on the other side of things, when I've heard these stories, it's not until they've gone up to these people and they've said, hey, I just want to let you know that Jesus loves you, or whatever it is, some little Bible verse or whatever, they have a specific message to this person from God, that there are people who literally burst into tears because they asked God, give me a sign. You don't realize how much of an impact you're having on someone from being obedient. Like, there have been times in my life where I have heard or had this sudden urge or feeling from God that I need to do something, and I did not act on it. I hesitated. I just sat there. I was quiet. I was contemplating to myself whether I should do it or not. I was guessing myself. I was doubting. And this girl put it into a great perspective where she said, how selfish of me to not share God's love, to share Jesus with someone else. They could be going through so much right now, and all they need is a little encouragement, a little love, a little sympathy, a little compassion. God provides so much of that. Jesus provides so much of that. He says multiple times, like, do not fear in the Bible. He tells us to, look out for one another. He literally says to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, like love your brother, love your sister. If we are holding back Jesus, who is literally the symbol of love, if we are holding that back from our brother or sister because we are too shy within ourselves, or too worried, or too scared, think about what that other person might be going through. But it doesn't even have to be obedience and those measures. There are different scenarios and times where God telling you to be obedient doesn't have to be just sharing the Bible with a stranger or going up and talking to someone about Jesus. It can be as simple as, did you read the Bible this morning? And this is me, because sometimes I hear God say, hey, read the Bible, or just like, you haven't spent time with me today, and I think, oh well, it's already nighttime, like there's no point, I'll just do it tomorrow, and then I put it off. And I know that I'm digging myself a hole when I do that, and I feel bad. But then it's like, why can't I just go and do as God says. Why can't I just pick up my Bible right now? My flesh is saying, oh, but I'm tired. Oh, all of a sudden I am hungry. All of a sudden, oh, I'm busy. I forgot I need to catch up on this or do that. And then all of a sudden you have all the excuses in the world to not do the said task that God has asked you to do. It's your spiritual self fighting your flesh each and every day. First thing you wake up, all throughout the day, straight to when you go to bed. And when people think like, what do you mean fighting your flesh? It's that fleshly desire within you when you are craving something or you have a strong desire for something that you know is not good for you. For example, smoking. Say you're fasting from it, one day you forget and you're like, you go have a smoke or something, and then like you feel that conviction come over you. You can either go two ways from that. You can either stop it there and think, okay, yeah, I made a mistake, but let's keep going. Or, and this is what most of us do, I've already done it today, might as well like just keep going now. I've already failed, what's the point in trying? That's when we really have to take into consideration every day is not guaranteed. Therefore, every day that you wake up, you are still breathing. That is another day. That's another blessing. Brand new day to try again. Yes, you might have sinned yesterday. Yes, you might have sinned last night. But what matters now is that today's a brand new day. Get back up and try again. When you are struggling with all these temptations, don't freak out. Understand that you're not the only one being tempted. That's normal. Everyone gets tempted. How you react in spite of that temptation shows your discipline, shows how you list your priorities, and it shows self-respect. That's something that I'm working on as well, because I'm not perfect. I still sin. I still struggle every day with temptations. There are sins that I wake up and struggle with more than others. Some sins that are harder and that tempt me more than others. And even though I come here and preach the good news of Jesus and how amazing he is, that doesn't mean that I'm not struggling myself. But we all have our own unique battles where there are some things that, require extra time, extra effort, extra patience, extra dedication and perseverance to overcome than others. If there are times when you are struggling with your own obedience with God and you feel like there's every single excuse or worry that's popping into your head, ask God for peace in your mind first. Like, ask for that peace, ask for that calmness so that you can really digest what he's wanting you to do, and then mentally remove yourself from your fleshly desires for a second. Your body is here, but then your spiritual self is literally divided like this. Here's you and your fixed body, worried about your flesh and what your flesh thinks, and then literally separate yourself from that into your like spiritual self. I don't know how else to word this, so that you can really detach yourself from your flesh so that you can easily see the instruction at hand and then execute that. When you are being obedient and following these instructions or commands, emotionally detach yourself from your flesh so that you are at internal peace. Say, for example, God tells me to get up and read the Bible, do a devotional or something, and I really don't want to. When I'm really in my feelings and in my flesh, I can think of any and every excuse as to why I don't want to do it. It's almost like I can feel my body get physically tired. Like, all of a sudden I'm tired, or all of a sudden I'm hungry. Like, you can literally feel your flesh not wanting to do what God is telling you to do. But if you detach yourself, literally switch your brain off, silence it, don't even think, and just get up and do it. Don't even think in your head, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. Just give yourself 5 seconds to stop and to look at your surroundings, to listen, to be present like this, and go and do what you have to do. Even if you don't want to in your head, don't even think about it. Sometimes we put our feelings on this huge pedestal where we think, oh, I feel, therefore this must be important, therefore this is more important than anything else. Like, at the end of the day, no. Don't put your feelings of how you feel ahead of anything else. If we did everything based on how we felt and we didn't have any discipline, do you know how unproductive we would be, how distracted we would be? If I was on TikTok today and I was already on it for an hour and then I was like, oh, I need to go do the dishes, but I don't want to, I want to stay here scrolling on my phone, and I said, well, I feel like doing this, so I should do this. If we put our feelings on such a high pedestal like that, we wouldn't get anything done. And think of how many times we feel like doing something that we know isn't good for us. Whether that's laying on the couch all day, eating out 24/7, or wanting to go out and drink and whatnot and party all the time. If we did everything based on how we felt in the moment, do you know how much we would sin, like even more? Because it leaves no room or consideration for anyone else or the future or anything, because you're only worried about your present situation, your present self, and you are not thinking ahead. And that's why we are so lucky that we're able to understand the concept of time. Whereas we know that in winter, if it is cold outside, we need to put on a jacket and a hat and a scarf, and some boots or something, so that we protect ourselves and so that we do not get sick. But if you are in the moment and you think, oh, I don't want to put a jacket on, or I don't feel like it, like, oh, I'm warm enough and it's freezing outside or it's raining and you're getting drenched from head to toe, but you want to stay outside and jump in the puddles or whatever, and you don't think about the repercussions or the consequences, then you will get sick. Us humans are able to understand that there are consequences to our actions. Therefore, that's why when you have had a couple drinks or something, you know that you need to have a sober driver to get back home. Because you understand, if you were to drive home drunk, not only could you be out there hurting yourself, but you're out there hurting someone else. But if you felt like, oh no, I don't want to get a Uber, or I don't want to just crash here for the night, or I don't want to tell someone to come pick me up, and you think, oh yeah, well, I feel like just driving, so I'm going to drive. That is so selfish of you, so inconsiderate of you to think of anyone else that you could be putting in danger. That's why I say, yes, you should care about one's feelings, but do not base all your actions off of how you feel in the moment. That's why God says to hold your tongue, like be patient when you speak, because you may feel really angry and you may be wanting to cuss out that person you're talking to, but you're not thinking of the consequences at the moment. You're only thinking of how you might hurt that person right now, or anything to get your anger out, but you're not thinking of how that may affect your relationship down the line. And the same can be said for lust, for example. You say, oh, but I feel like I need to get with this person right now. If you were to always base yourself off of those feelings, you're not considering how being in the heat of the moment will affect your relationship with that person, the consequences of that, how that could affect your relationship, what could be the other outcomes that could happen, how that affects even the other parties involved that aren't the two immediate people. When we are trying to be obedient with God, God tells us to put our feelings aside, to not be so selfish, to not think about ourselves, because God is more than just us. God is more than just a part of us. He is a part of everything. He made everything. He created everything, and every single person in this world who was, who is, and who will be. He has spent considerable time and energy handcrafting each and every one of us. So when we go out and we decide not to obey him, you have to understand that there will be future consequences of that. Especially if you ask God to use you. God, can you please use me to fulfill your will in any way, shape, and form, both to yourself or to other people? And then God says, hey, I want you to share your testimony or something. And then you start thinking of every reason as to why you shouldn't, or you go and put that off. Maybe there's a reason why God's telling you to do that. Maybe when you share your testimony, that might help someone else out there, another of God's sons and daughters. That might help other people speak up about something they've been through in their testimony. Maybe it's going to invoke a sense of change to not only your future line, but also maybe those other people. It's kind of like the butterfly effect, you know, like one small action makes this whole huge different change over time. What makes no sense is if you are asking God, please change me or do this, help me to be more obedient. You ask God of all these qualities, to give you all these qualities. He's not just going to give you these qualities, but he's going to put you in certain situations that are going to help you be more obedient, to be stronger, to be more patient, to be more loving, to be more calm. He's not just going to say, here, just sprinkle this over yourself and you'll be more calm. Like, no, he's going to put you in certain scenarios where you're under pressure so that you learn how to deal with those pressures so that you are calm under pressure. He's going to put you through scenarios where he tells you, okay, I want you to do A, B, and C, to see if you will be obedient, so that you can push yourself to actually say, yes, I am obedient because I've done A, B, and C. Say you want to be stronger in your faith. He is going to test you. He's not just going to give you more faith. He's going to say, okay, I'm going to throw this at you, I'm going to throw this at you, and I'm going to throw this at you. And he's going to push it your way. And then he's going to see, okay, how did you handle that? He's giving you opportunities to be stronger in your faith. Sure, you may have faith when everything's fine and dandy and everything's going your way. What if all of a sudden everything hits the fan? What if all of a sudden you're struggling, you've lost your job, or all of a sudden you've been scammed and then you lose a portion of your money? Are you still going to be out here praising the Lord? Are you still going to be saying God is good and, you know, preaching in church? Are you still going to be out here talking about how great God is and speaking of the good news? Or are you going to start hating on him? Are you going to start blaming him for all of these things that are happening to you? Are you still going to wake up every morning and thank God for another day? Obedience kind of goes hand in hand with faith, because it's easy to say, I have faith, when you're reading it in theory. A great story to look at in the Bible when you talk about obedience is Jonah. Because Jonah said, oh yeah, God, I'll do everything for you. You know, like, I'll be your servant. Just tell me what to do, I'll go do it. God told him to go to a specific area and to go preach about God there. And Jonah said, I'll go to this place where they love Jesus and I'll go talk there, but not this place. These people don't know Jesus. They don't deserve Jesus. You want me to go that way? I'm going the other way. So that's when he got on the boat and he was heading off in the other direction. God created this giant storm. Jonah realized this whole storm is happening because of me, because I decided not to listen to God. He said, yo, guys, I'm the reason why this giant storm's here. You need to throw me into the sea. So the other guys, they threw him in, and then he was swallowed by a whale. He spent 3 days and 3 nights in there, praying to God, asking for forgiveness. Once Jonah got out, what did he do? He went straight to the city, and lo and behold, all these people loved him. They loved the message that he brought. And most of the time, when God tells us to do something and we are against it or we don't want to do it, it's always because of what we think, which makes sense. But it's also like, we need to learn to stop thinking about ourselves or worrying about what we think and think about what God thinks. Stop thinking that our opinion matters, because it doesn't. God's telling you to do something. You're either going to do it or you don't. And if you don't, well, remember, God is God. Like, remember your place. What's it going to take for you to remember, like, God is who he is? Do you not understand the power that he holds? How long is it going to take you? There's a verse in the Bible that says, obedience surpasses sacrifice. Because it's easy to sacrifice, but it's not always easy to be obedient. And so when I think of faith, this leads me to Job. He has everything he could wish for. He's got this great, amazing family, all these animals, all these servants, you know, and everyone loves him. Like, there is nothing wrong, and he's happy. He loves the Lord. Satan goes up to God and says, of course he loves you, because he's got all this fancy stuff. He's got this big family, he's got all these animals, he's got this nice little house, he's got all these people who are devoted to him. Take that away and he won't want anything to do with you anymore. This is when God tests Job. You got to understand though, like we understand that God was testing Job, but Job didn't know that at the time. When Job hears that all his children are dead, all his animals are gone, all his servants are gone and everything, he still continued to praise God. Satan once again went up to God and said, of course he's going to still praise you because you haven't touched him. And so that's what happens with Job. Again, he has all these sores, these painful sores all over his body. And even his wife is telling him, like, yo, just hate on God. Like, can't you see what he's done to you? Everything that he's taken away from you? Job still has the heart to say no, he wouldn't. And the closest he does come to blaspheming God, I guess, is when he literally just hated on himself. He literally cursed the day that he was born. A couple of his mates came over to talk to him and see how he was, and they said, yo, Job, you must have done something wrong. Like, you must have done something really bad because all of the stuff that's happening, like, this stuff doesn't just happen out of the blue. And Job is sitting there saying, like, curse the day that I was born, you know, like all this pain and sorrow and everything. God shows Job this dream. At the end of it, God gave everything back to Job. He gave him twice the number of animals, twice the number of servants, twice the number of family and everything. In the end, God has the power to give and take away. If God is giving you everything, that's a blessing. And if God is the one to take it away, that's a blessing too. Glory be to God. You are not losing something to the devil. If you lose something, the only person who's taking that away is God. Like, at the end of the day, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We came onto this earth with nothing and we're going to leave with nothing. So why are we so pressed and upset that, hey, we've got no land, hey, we've got no animals, hey, we've got no flesh, you know, houses or like real estate, we haven't got any flesh materialistic items? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because we're going to die and then who's going to be left with all this? It's not like we can take it to heaven. It's not like we can take it with us into the next place. To be obedient, you need to fear God. Because God is so loving. Don't get me wrong, God is a loving God. But we also got to understand, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, God is still the same. Jesus is still the same. He hasn't gotten all soft in the New Testament. He's still the same God. He hasn't changed. The audacity we have sometimes, and even myself, to question God's authority is just crazy, because he has so much power. He knows it. He knows how much power he has, and yet he still has mercy for us. He still has forgiveness. He still has patience. Sometimes we just need to remember our place. God's up here. Like, we're not even down here. Like, we're so much lower than that. If he wants us to do something, we better get up and do it. There shouldn't be even a second of doubt or a second of hesitation in our mind that we should go against him or delay his command or his instruction. What has God asked you to do? Are you being obedient? Are you being hesitant? Are you doubting? Are you just trying to find excuses? Why do you feel that you so strongly have the right to tell God, yes or no, I'm going to do what you said, or no, I'm not? Who are you to tell God, yes, I'm going to do what you say, and no, I'm not going to? Like, we are mere humans. Love you guys lots. Stay safe. Stay blessed.